Hey guys, Jake here, and welcome to my Get Good Beginner Guide for Super Mario World Kaizo. Just a quick disclaimer, this guide is strictly for Kaizo Mario knowledge only, so I will not be explaining how to patch anything or what the best way to get these games or to play these games. Also, that this will strictly be my opinion, so it may not resonate with other creators and what they believe is a good starting point for certain things. But these are the hacks that have worked for me on my Kaizo journey, or the hacks that I would have chosen in hindsight to kind of ease my journey a bit better. And as you play these hacks, I'll recommend switching between your favorite controllers, also trying new ones, and seeing if you like to play claw or not. I think that's also a big factor. Claw essentially being using your index or middle finger for the top left and top face buttons. And I believe that that is the best thing to do as you start building your muscle memory. And for me personally, I play using an analog pocket. A lot of times I'll play it in handheld mode, but also docked. When I play it docked, I use a 8-bit Do SNK Neo Geo controller. For me, the circle pad doesn't fatigue my thumb as much the way a traditional D-pad would. Since you're not pressing down on it, you're more sliding it around. So I would recommend checking out that controller if you just have no idea what controller to use. And going into the guide, I will start at the Kaizo Noob level, then Kaizo Beginner, then Kaizo Intermediate. And then just scratch the surface a little bit of Expert and what to expect in Expert. Since the Expert category is kind of the Wild West, I feel like you can get something like things.smc, which mostly feels like an intermediate hack, or something like Casio World, which is just something I don't even want to go near yet myself. So going into the Kaizo Noob section, I'm going to be recommending mainly Oops All Fortresses and 2 Kaizo to learn. I think these are 2 great hacks to start off with and kind of switch back and forth, with Oops All Fortresses being a more experience hack, and you could honestly just jump right into it. And 2 Kaizo to learn being a more sit down, read, learn mechanics tutorial hack. One's more learning, one's more just hands-on experience. And I think these are both great to kind of pass back and forth. And Oops All Fortresses is very accessible to newer players. I don't even think you need the run button for the first level, maybe even the whole game as far as I know. And it's essentially a room-by-room styled hack, so there's a lot of forgiveness for each of your deaths, which I think is a great place to start learning and just start playing Kaizo, period. And a funny side story too, I actually handed my mom the controller to see if she could beat Oops All Fortress's first level, and she spent about an hour and actually managed to beat the first level. So I thought that was amazing, and I think it just goes to show how accessible Oops All Fortresses is. For context, she doesn't play any video games. Here is Oops All Fortresses. Here is 2 Kaizo to learn. And for sticking with beginner, I recommend skipping the full double shell and the entire cape section for now. And then alongside those hacks, I'm going to recommend just as optional choices, Learn to Kaizo. Learn to Kaizo is essentially like a more legacy learning hack, which is actually what I played. But the difference between 2 Kaizo to learn and Learn to Kaizo is that Learn to Kaizo is more linear. You can't just choose a section and learn a specific Kaizo skill. You'll need to progress linearly and be forced to pass some of the difficult tests before learning new skills, which may be a little intimidating and was intimidating for me at first too. It was not an easy hack. I think the final level of learning Kaizo took me like 3 to 5 hours. So it's I would say it's more brutal than 2 Kaizo to learn. But it'll you'll learn to Kaizo for sure. Here is learn to Kaizo. And then the other optional hack I'm going to recommend is actually going to be the very first level of Celeste.smc. Now this is where, veteran players might be like, okay, this is crazy. How are you recommending a more difficult hack? And the reason is Celeste.smc, I got to give a spot for this because this is the hack that got me into Kaizo. I just thought the hack was amazing. It's very aesthetically, the music, just the additional mechanics of wall jumping and boosting in midair. That all that together was made me go, I want to learn Kaizo. So I got to give a nod to the first level of Celeste.smc, and it's also very accessible. I think you don't need to know any like cookie cutter Kaizo knowledge to pass the first level. You don't need to know about chuck gates or shells or anything like that. You pretty much just be fine with your vanilla Mario knowledge, if you have vanilla Mario knowledge, and just the mechanics that are introduced in the game. And you should be good enough to beat that level. And it is going to be a difficult level, absolutely. But I think it's also good because it'll show you the realistic difficulty that Kaizo will bring to you, which I think is good to have early on to see if you even want to, keep putting time into this and learn it. And here's the first level of Celeste.smc. Alright, now going into Kaizo Beginner, I'm going to recommend starting with Quickie World 1. Quickie World 1 is a classic starting point for a lot of Kaizo players. Even most, I would say, fresh players will begin at Quickie World 1. And I think it's just a crucial beginner hack to play, especially for its notorious final level that's more of an intermediate level. I think it's a great capstone course to then progress and be ready to go to the intermediate category if you wish to. And then also along that, if Quickie World 1 gets a little too difficult at some points, I recommend going to Quickie World 2 as well. Kind of swapping between the two if you need to. Quickie World 2 is in general a little bit easier, and in my opinion, I think I overall enjoyed Quickie World 2 a bit more. But overall, I'd recommend playing through both of them, but especially Quickie World 1, I would say. Here's Quickie World 1. Here is Quickie World 2. And then also another hack I would recommend optionally is Baby Kaizo World. I recommend it if you beat Learn to Kaizo, specifically because I recall Baby Kaizo World testing out the skills that you learn in Learn to Kaizo, and it is a pretty long hack as well, testing out each of those skills. Here's Baby Kaizo World. And then lastly, as the capstone hack for the beginner category, I'm going to recommend playing through Akogare, which is actually a more lower intermediate difficulty hack. That's Akogare 1. And you can play either the standard or deluxe versions, though I would recommend the deluxe version since you can save midways and it has custom music and aesthetic. However, I think it is a little tiny bit harder compared to the standard one from my, if my memory serves me correct. And here's Akogare. But yeah, like at that point, if once you finish Akogare, I would say you're pretty much solid to play any, or at least most, Kaizo beginner categoried hacks. Um, and I would recommend, honestly, for most people to maybe chill here and even just enjoy beginner hacks here, because the intermediate category onward does get more brutal. You're going to be looking at levels that take like 5+ hours to beat in some of these hacks. So just a fair warning, if you're having fun with beginner category and you just want to stop here, totally understandable, totally good. Just a heads up, the upper intermediate hacks and beyond will get more brutal in difficulty for sure. Once you're comfortable with beginner and ready to move on to intermediate hacks, here are the hacks I would recommend. Starting with Invictus, which is actually the first intermediate hack I personally beat, even before Akogare. And Invictus is very difficult. It was the first hack where I was like questioning, am I good enough to even, play some of these upper intermediate going into expert hacks, especially with some of the last levels being maybe even expert, like absolute power, and the final boss taking me like, I think like 7-9 hours, something crazy. Very very difficult hack and a good capstone experience hack to kind of close off intermediate. But there's a lot of stuff you gotta learn, which is why I have a lot of learning hacks here. So alongside Invictus, I have Kaizo Kindergarten by Panga, which just has an insane amount of detail. Like, you will absolutely learn something new about Mario World that you didn't even know about. It includes like frame data. It includes just generally everything, like a very general breadth of knowledge that is invaluable. Here is Invictus. Here is Panga's Kaizo Kindergarten. Along with that too, I also have Learn to Shell and Learning to Fly, which will get you pretty strong with shell and cape skills. Which at this point, if you're going in an intermediate, tough shell sections and tough cape sections are fair game for the intermediate category, and especially if you want to move on to expert. So I feel like these hacks are also invaluable learning hacks that will help prepare you be a very strong player. Here is Learn to Shell. Here is Learning to Fly. And then at the bottom, I have two optional hacks, which the first one being Super Dram World 1. That is optional, but I highly recommend it. I just have it optional because there are a lot more modern hacks that are very different from Dram World. And Dram World is a more, I believe people will call it Boomer Kaizo. It's just very older in style in the sense where it doesn't test you on your reflexes as much, but more of Kaizo blocks and just maybe not reflexes is the right word, but it tests very different skills than a modern hack will. And it's, like I said, a lot more Kaizo blocks, which could bring a lot more frustration. I personally did not like Super Dram World my first playthrough. But after I played through it, I played through it not a lot of times, but like a good amount of times now, and it's become one of my favorite hacks. So maybe people will have a similar experience with Dram World. So I still highly recommend it, but I'm putting the optional tag because it is very different from the majority of hacks that I've played since then. Here is Super Dram World. And then lastly, I'm going to recommend Water World as an optional hack. One, because it is a fantastic hack. It is one of my favorites. It's such a good hack. But it's also just all water levels or all water base levels. So Water World will get you very familiar with water swimming mechanics. So I think it's an important hack to play as you're building your skills and cementing them for other intermediate hacks and moving forward to expert. And here's Water World. And to close off the video, I'm going to scratch the surface of Kaizo Expert with the only expert hack I have finished as of now, which is things.smc. I think things.smc is a great starting point, at least for what I know, because a lot of the levels and most of the hack is very intermediate in difficulty. The difficulty comes mostly from its magnitude of chocolate mechanics. Like each level kind of has its own chocolate mechanics. Also wanted to quickly show off things.smc. At this point, you as a player could probably find other starting points that may suit your style and what you want to play. Maybe you want to start with Grand Poo World or Sonic Saves the World, Dram 2, Casio World. To go crazy, start wherever you want to start at, pretty much. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm by no means a top player, but I just wanted to make this guide to help others who may be interested in playing these Kaizo hacks, but just don't know where to start. Since I think a lot of these hacks are wonderful, well made, and worth the effort if you're looking to put time into building your skills to play these hacks. So yeah, thanks for watching, and please drop a comment below or something if this guide helped you in any way, and hope you have fun trying out some of these hacks.